Welcome to Story Time with Lori. In part one, we talked about identity, coming alive, and stepping into power. Today, we're talking about what happens after that. What do you do to build? How do you build it? And how you grow without shrinking yourself to fit into other people's comfort. We're here with none other, Cass Cooper, to talk about her own business. We're going to dive into that. So, Cass, welcome back to part two.
Thank you, Lori. Listen, again, the part one was really powerful. I'm glad that we're able to come back and give a little bit few more nuggets and all of that stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to talk well about myself because sometimes that's a challenge, right?
Yes, I was going to I was going to actually lean right into that is having eyes all on you. And you're like, okay, let's talk about me, what I'm building, know better, do better. What a great company name. But all of a sudden now we got to talk all about Cass Cooper. So
Yeah.
I applaud you, Mama. How are you helping people get more comfy in their own skin talking about themselves?
Yeah. So I think part of my strategy is making sure that we lead with education. A lot of times, again, like my company name says, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know better, you really can't do any better. I think a lot of times we try to change the behavior first rather than looking at what is the why behind the behavior. And and that could go in a lot of different ways. I started off as focusing mostly on organizational development. What is the health of the organization? What are the systems that are in place? But why do we use those systems? And really educating folks about what better systems can be available, but then using the information that you already have. A lot of folks already have a lot of intellectual property available to them inside of organizations, but they're just not utilizing it in the best way. So that's where my business started. But as time has gone on, I realized that in order to develop better leaders inside of those organizations, we have to lean into what they know and what they know about themselves. And a lot of that is just, what do I stand for? What do I believe? How does that influence my behavior? And how can I change that behavior that aligns with my beliefs and thoughts and wants and desires, but also is a little bit more innovative? So right now I'm focusing on, how do leaders really understand, and not just leaders, but people who are high performing, because I really also believe that
Mhm.
everybody's a leader. You lead your home, you lead yourself, you lead your kid, you lead your friends. Everybody has their sphere of influence. But so, how do people who are high performers really niche down to be seen, be understood, to better understand themselves? What could that look like? So that's really what I'm focusing on now. What is the heart behind the person, and how do we align what they want to do in their career with what they know to be true about themselves, or do they even know it to be true about themselves? It's really kind of an interesting, you know, space to be in.
It really is. It means that you're very connected. You have to be very connected to these people, and you have to teach people whether or not to take up space, or when they're in that space, how to finesse in that space. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that. When you identify something, this isn't working, how do you get, because sometimes people are like, "Ooh, that hurts," or you call it out, or they've already made it fully aware and they're asking you to help them. How do you start to walk somebody through your, let's walk through your program itself?
Yeah, so I'm focusing on the executive signal lab. Like, what are the signs and signals of your executive gravitas?
Mhm.
And how do we make sure that you are known for that? Because sometimes what we think we are
Yes.
communicating and versus what we're actually communicating are not the same thing. So I sorry, I lost my train of thought. How do we restate your
Brings
question
somebody out
again?
to their gravitas,
Yes, yes,
owning their
yes.
gravitas.
Yeah, so I think most people, especially the women leaders that I've been working with, we don't know what our secret sauce is, right? We just keep doing the motions, or we're being told by culture, society, these business coaches, whatever, that you need to be more of this. But very
Mhm.
rarely does someone come in and say, tell me what you want. Tell me what you like about yourself. And so
Mhm.
part of it, especially when I'm working with women, is understanding who you are at your core. I think my secret sauce when I call people in or call people out of their own behavior is I do it with a little bit of humor, but also a
Mhm.
little bit of finesse of,
Mhm.
but wait, hold on. Like, you just said something really powerful and you just glazed right over it. Let's go back to that, right? Let's sit in that a little bit. And it's hard because I would say for me, one of the things I didn't realize I was good at is just basic people organization. I'm the oldest daughter, right? So I always was the one who made sure everybody did the things and got to where they needed to be. I have always been a leader inside of organizations. I think I was a individual contributor like once in my career. From then on, I've been in a managerial or executive kind of presence role. And it's hard to think like, well, this is what I just do. And doesn't everybody do this? But the answer is no. Not everybody
Right.
does or is capable of the things that make you special. That's what makes you special. But if no one takes the time to sit you down and say that's what's unique about you, you just kind of keep going through the motions of, oh, but this is just kind of what I do. And everyone is capable when you're really providing something that nobody else can do. So I really want to work with, or I really work with people to identify what that is, and a lot of times it's just listening to them describe themselves. Like, how would you describe yourself? That's the biggest question. What are the things that are most important to you? When we went through and did yours, which was really great and kind of fun because I already know you a little bit, so it was kind of like easy, but it was interesting to see the things that you said about yourself versus the things that I see in yourself. Um, and I would say 9.5 to almost 10 out of 10 times, people are shocked at the things that they say about themselves that are positive, that are impactful. But when you put it down on paper and read it back to them, they're like, oh, I do that? It's like, yeah, I'm just taking your words and shuffling them around and feeding them back to you to give you your why.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It goes back to when I was first introducing you on our first podcast. You're like, "Wow, I do all of that." And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that you're like, "Wow, like here's my scroll of how what a baddie I am." And for you turning this into your own business, and you're not just going to consult somebody. You're not like, "Oh, okay, well here's what's wrong. Here's how to go clean it up." You were like digging into people, making people feel seen and more like their gravitas. Like I'm Superman, Superwoman, super them. And it is such a unique gift that you hold. And I want to talk about two things here is when you're like, okay, I'm going to go make this mine and put my bow around it. And now I'm going to go sell and position myself. What made you do that?
I I mean, a lot of my ideas just swim around in my head until the right moment where I'm like, okay, Cass, it's time to get from ideation to execution. I think first of all, I had to sit down and really think about what are my goals in my career, right? Um, I think we're living in a time where it's important not to just make your job like your life, but really build a career that speaks to you, your time, your values. And there's just certain things that I want out of my life. I want a certain level of flexibility. I want to be able to take my kid on trips and support their athletic wants, needs, and desires. Um, take myself on trips, I don't know. And so I'm like, okay, how can I take the things that are in my head and build something new around it? Now, I have had the business in some form, shape, or fashion for about 6 years now. I started, I guess, in late 2020. So I really have leaned into it, but there's been several different shapes of it. Started as an equity and inclusion researcher, and research firm and then moved into more personal and psychological development. And it just kind of birthed itself out of, okay, here's an idea. I think I could do that. Let me try it out. And then, oh, that worked a little bit. Let me take what worked and then go back and here's an idea and then try it out. And like, oh, now I landed on something that really, really sticks.
Yeah. And I think that's, having a curious mind like that paired with execution and not afraid to say, okay, did it work? Did it not? What did I feel most aligned to as well?
Yeah.
Because part of that, it does drive that passion, especially if it's your passion project or your passion project is now your full-time job. If you're not in it in the right ways and the right reasons, it's not going to be who you are. And for example, like for me, like I've had this podcast idea for 2 years and it iterated itself to probably 13 different times. And I was on one of my a podcast with TJ Woodward and the framing of everything. And I'm like, oh, that's how I'm going to do it. And I tweak some stuff and I'm like, okay, this is more of who I am. I had all the same audience or the same speakers. We're tweaking a couple more things to be even more fully authentic through it all. And we're getting we're getting deep here, which is not normal in business. It's all about ego, driven it, but we are human beings. We are living people.
Yeah. I think there's this capitalist narrative that people don't want to work. And I don't think that that's to be true because anybody who's spent time around a small child who's trying to figure out how to just quite frankly go to the bathroom, put on their socks, put on their shoes, they instantly are like, no, I can do it. Right. But we as the world around them shape it so like, no, let me do it for you. And that kind of takes out that innate sense of I have the capacity and the boldness of it. And as we get older, that kind of goes away. And I question why. I mean, I have some theories as to why that is, but I think the hard part is really understanding that people really do want to, as human beings, bring that humanity to their work, and we also have the capacity to say, "I can do this," and I am capable, even when we aren't. Everybody knows that toddler is going to struggle with their shoes. They know they're going to put them on backwards. They're going to have their socks inside out if they even match. They're going to not know how to tie them. Eventually, they're going to come and ask you for help. But they also will say, no, no, mama, no, dada, no, granny, whomever, I can do it. Right? Because they want to do good work. I think we all have that inside of us. And this dominant narrative that people are lazy or certain people are lazy and don't want to work or don't want to do good things, have no pride in the way that they are. It takes away our humanity. It takes away who we actually are as that small child who is still learning, clearly not capable, but they're still worthy of the ability to and the time and the space to figure it out. And we don't do that as grown-ups. We just like, oh, I can't do it. And then that's it.
Yeah. How do you what advice do you give to someone who's afraid to claim their full version of themselves? Whether they're afraid to, whether they want to give up. What do you say to that?
So, do you remember the show This Is Us?
Yes.
Okay. So, the two characters on there, uh, what is it? Oh gosh, Randall and his wife. Oh gosh, I can think of everybody else but Randall and his wife, they do this thing where they say, okay, worst case scenario. And then they just say the thing out loud, right? That's the key. That is the thing. Because when you have this fear, when you have this trepidation, you have to like, what's the worst that could happen? Don't go in your head with it. Don't overthink the things in it. Literally say it out loud. Say, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Somebody's going to look at it and judge me. Okay. Well, how is that bad? Like, what does that say about, or what type of judgment do they have? Let's really get into the nitty gritty and talk through what
Mhm.
is the worst that could happen. Because a lot of times, the worst that could happen is a future think problem. It's not a problem that's actually happening right now. I have a client right now, and she she's really anxious about posting online because she's afraid of trolls. She's afraid of people who are going to like look at her work and be like, you suck, you're terrible. And I'm like, girl, you got 38 followers and most of us know you.
Yeah.
This is a future think problem. This is not a current problem.
Mhm.
So let's get out of our own way. And the best thing about I told her the best thing about posting online is that nobody saw it. The best thing about posting with no followers is nobody saw it. You have the privilege. Let's reframe it. You have the privilege to make mistakes and nobody will know.
Mhm.
You can try
That is
out
the nice part.
anything.
Yeah.
It's not like and so it's figuring out what are your long-term strategy goals with the form of communication that you wanna have, right? Whether that be a social media campaign, email, even just the way that you show up to in-person meetings or on Zoom or whatever. What is the long-term goal that you want? What are your actual values, right? Your wants, needs, your desires, who you are at your core? And then how do we bridge those two and communicate it and reframe it so that you can go and get those goals that you have, right? So being able to say, this is my ultimate goal, and I have to do some things that are going to make me uncomfortable in order to get there. That becomes the question. Not can I do it, but how do I do it? And am I willing to be uncomfortable along the way? Because you can't expect the same, like, you can't expect different results sitting in the same spot.
Mhm.
Eventually, you got to move from one spot to another, and that's gonna be uncomfortable, but the uncomfortability, if you know the destination, most of the time it's gonna be worth it. So,
Love
I work
that.
to teach people on how they can do that, right? Lean
Yeah.
into it, man. What's the
Yeah.
worst that could happen? Speak it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're getting to the grit of it, of like, okay, what you scared of? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
And I like that you get to the rawness of like, okay, let's talk about those fears.
yeah,
And you're also kind of easing your people into it of like, listen, you don't have a big following right now. Like you can practice, like put your got your training wheels on, like get comfortable with it. And next is you need some haters because they're still fueling you. They're still watching your
yeah.
stories.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing. I'm like, "Hey, thank you, hater, for boosting my algorithm."
Thank you.
Like,
Yes, thank
you
you.
know what? I
And
don't have to prove that I am knowledgeable in this area. I know that I am. But again,
yes.
it goes back to what is your belief about yourself?
Mhm, mhm.
What are you afraid? And a lot of that, now listen, I don't see myself as I'm not a therapist. I am not a coach. I want to help you come up with strategy, right? You hopefully at this point in your adulthood, you have a therapist. Hopefully you have friends. I am not your friend, sister. I am this person who's going to give you the strategy to get from point A to point B to point C. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And what is the mental block that is holding you back? Because if we could overcome that, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. There's nothing that you can't do. And I think that we have to tell ourselves, especially as women, that at the end of the day, there's nothing I can't do.
Mhm.
Everything is figure outable. The question is whether or not I want to go through the discomfort of figuring it out.
Yes.
And most people don't want to, and that's fine. But for those who do, come on, I got something for you. We can do the hard things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it, I love it. I heard a quote that always said, instead of thinking of like, "Well, what could go wrong? What could go right?" And that's also scary too of like, "Oh my god, well, what if it takes off?" And you're like, "Well, add that to the bucket." You're afraid. You're
Yeah.
it's another thing that you're afraid of, scared of, but again, you're being vulnerable in what you're doing, and that's such a beautiful piece and such an undervalued moment for leadership and to take that moment, and that there's so much strength in that, and not a lot of people have strength to be vulnerable and to go take action.
Yeah. I think we want to take action. We want, but most of us don't have a roadmap. And so, who is that guide? Who is that person to help you find the roadmap to your next? I am that person. I think that I know that people have greatness in them. And a lot of times it's helping you see that greatness in yourself and giving you steps on how to move from, again, point A to point B, from chaos
Mhm.
to clarity,
Mhm.
to having all these ideas to putting them into the world. We are all living with inside of our chaotic brain, right? Our little lizard brains are all the time. But how do we take that, calm it a little bit so that we can move into the next great part of our lives? And because of the chaos that I've experienced in my own life, I'm able to look into other people and be like, listen, what you're experiencing is very, very valid, but it is not all of who you are. It's not all of where you're going to be, and you won't be in that forever.
Amen. Amen. Well, let's get into your offerings because I had an opportunity to experience one of your offerings, and I'll tell you, toot toot, like you made me feel so good. And you mentioned it because you're like, I'm repeating to you back what you just said about yourself. I'm making a foundation for you. So let's get into that because I'm someone who has been 20 some odd years in sales, 15 plus in channel itself in the ecosystem. And I'm trying to reinvent myself. My branding continues, step out, do this podcast, create my own LLC and do some consulting and working on that. And I wanted to go to you specifically just because I admire who you are and getting any extra time for my own self development and my own next steps. I was so thrilled to share this time with you. So I want to get into the meat of it and what you're doing and
Yeah.
showcase more of that right now.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So, my so there's three parts or three options, but they're essentially building the same foundation and groundwork. So I have the Chaos to Clarity leadership session, which is you come to me with a specific problem that you have one on one, and it's aimed to bring focus and clarity to your messaging around that issue. Now, sometimes people don't even know what the issue is, or sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, I think this is the problem I'm having, and this is what I want to solve. But then when we get into the session, it's about an hour. Um, that ain't the issue that you're dealing with. And so we'll deep dive into what is the challenge you're facing, how do you want to solve it? What are some options for you to solve it? And how do we get clear messaging around that? Um, a lot of it could be a personal branding issue. So for some people, it really is, I want to move my career from this point to this point, but I keep getting overlooked and I don't know how to change my messaging, or I want to move into a new role in a different organization, but I don't want to, appear that I'm looking, and how do I change my narrative around myself, and how do I get clarity, right? I'm having a little bit of chaos. I'm trying to lean into some clarity. Come to me, I can help you. And then you'll leave with a positioning statement, right? A clear I am statement and three core actions that you can apply immediately. I am big on, we're not just going to ideate. We're going to come up with a plan and a strategy. In the next week, you need to do these three things. In the next 90 days, you need to do these three things. Again, it depends on what the challenge and the issue is. Sometimes it's quick implementation and it's fast. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes you need a little bit more depth. So you can get one of those sessions. You can book as many as you want. If you come with a new problem or challenge, you can book those. I probably am about to bundle some of them together. So if you wanted to do multiple, um, so that's one. If you're not interested in one-on-one, I also am hosting a executive signal lab specifically for personal branding and online messaging, but it's the same concept. What is the challenge that you're having? How are you going to, especially in this age of AI, how are you going to make sure that you are being seen and giving that right signaling to your executive team as a either budding executive or someone who already is on that level looking to move into the C suite? How are you going to build clarity around who you are, what you do, what you provide, the value you give to the organization without saying, this is the value that I provide to the organization. Now, do we want some metrics around that? Absolutely. Reducing, spend over multiple departments by this percent, we will come up with those for you. But your clarity has to go beyond your title. It has to, like, you have to be able to define who you serve, what they actually want, and articulate what it is that you do to help them so that they can clearly understand it. My phrase is I bring clarity to chaos, period. I focus on women, leaders, and technology. That's it. Like, but you would think it sounds easy, but you have to be clear about that and be okay with I am not everything for everybody. And especially for women, we have been sociologically trained to be everything for everybody. And you may feel like you need to be everything for everybody. But in our executive signal lab, we will make it clear you have one audience, you have one goal, and you have one message. And it's okay to say that message over and over and over because, again, when you get to that one goal, now we need to change the goal so that we can change the message, but we're not going to change who we are at our core either. Or maybe we'll evolve and maybe we'll grow. And that's okay. So it's a group session. I'm limiting it to 15 seats. Hopefully people, when those seats are gone, then I'll probably do another one. But I want to make sure that the people who are in the room get exactly what they need. And then, of course, I have an enterprise level solution as well, where what is the chaos that you have on your team? How can we build it together with your team involved, and go from there in order to have clarity from your chaos that you're experiencing. Maybe your team had a mass layoff, and maybe there's a layoff in your organization and your team was not impacted. That creates a certain level of chaos. So how do we make sure that we are communicating well to that team, still having the same core values on that team, and making sure that they can execute well? So that is what I do in a nutshell. It's fun. I think I have a good time. Like, you tell me, Lori, was it fun? Like, what?
I loved it. I felt like it was like you get your astrology read and you're like, okay, tell me all about me, but for business with an action plan behind it. And I think that is what's so impactful from it is group settings, one-on-one, enterprise, whatever you want, you're nimble and you can build around that. But it's not just ideation. Like you have a plan with it afterwards. And I'm going to follow up with you. And how are you doing? And you're the accountability person behind it as well. And the metrics behind it, because everyone's doing it for outcomes and you pair that with it. And I think, having that foundation coming out afterwards and, hearing it and then reading it and then building your message around it. And as simple as you said it was, is like, I work for women in technology and here's my core and what I'm doing. It's hard to tell your story and do that. And you are so crisp with it. So I'm so excited to see what happens for you. How shall everyone get in touch with you, Cass?
I am very easy to find. I am casscooper.com. That's it.
Can't
Everything
go
is
wrong there.
there. Oh, and you know what? Actually, I just put this on there. I forgot to mention it. So, one of the things and the foundational things I know for women right now is burnout.
Mm.
I'm recovering from burnout as well. And listen, it's hard out here in these streets. You know what I mean? So, I do have an online course that's available on YouTube. It's quick and easy. You click it on my website, easy download, instant download. And one of the things that it builds, you'll also get access to, is a foundational questionnaire that will tell you where you are in your chaos journey. Because sometimes you think that everything's cool, but then based off of the questions, maybe you got a little chaos
Absolutely.
going on. And so being able to really hone in on that and then have some, again, strategies and some tools to help you calm your nervous system, but then still like be able to function and work in a strategic way will lead into that. So I just put it on my website last week, so I hopefully people like find it and want to participate. I think that I had a lot of fun making the videos because it was, again, very healing for me to be able to talk about the things that I learned from being an executive who was burnt out and what that looked like for me. And to just to be able to share that with people. So it's $100 or $97. You get 1 year of access. You can have the videos as long as you want. If you want to renew, you can at the end of the year, but you can always come back to it. And then you get that questionnaire to see where you are in your chaos journey.
Check it out. I am CassCooper.com. Cass, as we start to round this out, what advice do you have for our listeners to be more committed to doing better?
One, it's educating yourself. Don't read a whole bunch of books just on random things. Educate yourself on who you are. Take time to write down, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how that integrates into my life. Because when you know better, you really can truly do better. But so much of us are given these ideas and these ideals, and we don't take the time to pull that thread. So I would encourage you to pull that thread as safely as possible, in community with people so that you can do better in your life and you can move from that chaotic moment to clarity consistently and more easily because you have the tools to do so.
Thank you for being here with me, Cass. All of us, I appreciate you and your knowledge. Thank you for spreading that around.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you for creating a space where people can be truly themselves and to be authentic and having me on here twice. That's an honor.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more down the future. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for being here and spending time with us. If something from today stayed with you, let it. That's where growth lives. This is Storytime with Lori. Real life, real laughs, real lessons. Until next time, keep becoming.